Do you recall the words we throw around when life feels normal? Because in a real storm, they don't stop being soft. Trust, connection. And the question shows up fast. Who's with me? I mean, when it gets inconvenient, when it's awkward, when it would just be easier just to pull back, when it gets tense, when you're tired, when the pressure climbs, and when the room feels like it could tip either way. Because we say trust and connection all the time here in this podcast. But in real storms, at work, in leadership, in our families, these aren't just soft ideas. They're the difference between sinking alone and moving together. So think about it. Who do you trust the most? Not the person who only shines when life is great, right? Or the one who disappears the second it gets awkward. You trust the ones who show up when life gets messy. It's the ones who stay close when the storm shows its teeth. Because here's the truth a lot of us people avoid. You don't really learn trust in calm. You learn it in pressure. You learn it when there's a mistake on the table and everyone can feel it. You learn it when you're watching somebody decide if they're going to own what they did or protect their ego. You learn it in the pause after you ask for help. When you're tired and short and still choosing how you're going to show up. And connection? Well, connection is your lifeline. And without it, you start paddling alone. And yeah, burnout, that comes faster. The doubts get louder. The storm feels bigger than it is. And if you've been through burnout, you already know this part. Because a lot of burnout isn't just workload, it's isolation. It's carrying problems like they're all yours. And feeling like you have to be the strong one while you quietly fall apart. Because it's not just exhaustion. It's disconnection.
When the room gets heavy, I don't disappear. I stay close, I stay honest, I make it clear. No big speech, just consistent, day by day. I match my words to my actions, and that's my way. Trust is a pattern built when life gets loud. Connection is the lifeline, not the crowd. I show up steady, I don't walk away. I am the total person today.
Trust and connection started to hit me differently after my breakdown. When I shifted careers, when I became a father trying to be present, not just physically, but mentally, I realized something. None of this works alone. You can't lead well. You can't parent well, and you can't rebuild well either without connection. And trust doesn't come just from titles. It doesn't just come from paychecks. It doesn't come from sounding confident either. It comes from showing up real, even when you don't have it all together. So let me say this. A lot of us think trust is just a feeling, but trust itself is a pattern. It's built in what you repeat. It's built in the small moments where you could just disappear and you choose not to. It's that follow-up call, the honest apology, and it's the I'll handle it that actually gets handled. That is consistency. And that makes people exhale. And if you want to know why that matters, just look at what happens when trust is missing. At work, trust doesn't break when the day is easy. It breaks when things go sideways. It breaks when someone drops the ball and nobody owns it. It breaks when people stop telling the truth because they don't feel safe. It breaks when a team starts acting like the question is an attack. And what happens then? Everything gets slower. People start protecting themselves. They get vague. They avoid decisions. They stop asking for help. They stop sharing information. And you can certainly feel it. You can feel the room tighten up when trust slows down. And you feel a team shrink. Now look at a family. When trust is thin at home, it doesn't always show up in a fight. It shows up as distance, silence, short answers, a weird tension in a normal conversation. And if you're a parent, you see it in your own kids too. Kids don't always have words for connections feels weak right now. So it comes out as mood. It comes out as pushing limits. It comes out as acting out. And it comes out as shutting down as well. And as a parent, it's easy to take that personally. But a lot of time, it's not personal. It's a signal. They are checking, are you with me? And I'm not saying this like I've mastered it. I'm saying it because I live the opposite. I've been that guy who's there, but not really there. I've been the guy whose mind was still at work while my body was sitting at the table. I've been the guy who thought being present was a location. And then you learn. Presence is an attention. Presence is choosing to be with what's in front of you. And trust grows inside of that. Now, here is another layer people don't always want to hear. Trust isn't only between you and other people. Trust starts with you as well, with your own words. Because if you keep breaking promises to yourself, you start moving like someone can't be counted on. You start second guessing your own decisions. You start negotiating with your own standards. And you tell yourself, you'll sleep, but you don't. You tell yourself, you'll slow down, but you don't. And you tell yourself, you'll have the conversation, but you avoid it. And then you wonder why you don't feel steady. It's not because you're weak. It's because your system is learning a pattern. So if we're talking about trust today, I want you to hear all sides of it. Trust with your partner. Trust with your kids. Trust with your team. Trust with yourself. Your words and your actions either meet or they don't. And people feel that. Now, some of you are thinking, okay, Chris, but I'm not trying to be inconsistent. I'm just overloaded. I get that. And yet, Overload doesn't remove the effect. If you're overloaded and you stop following through, people still feel the impact. If you're overloaded and you stop repairing, the cracks will still form. So what do? You stop treating trust like it's a vibe. You treat it like a practice. And a practice is built in small repetitions. Brené Brown talks about trust like it's built in tiny deposits. Not speeches, not in dramatic gestures. Small actions that stack up. Doing what you said you do. Owning your mistake without turning it into a debate. Keeping people's stuff private. Being clear and not confusing. And when you don't do those things, it's not that people get mad. They get cautious. They get quiet and they stop leaning on you. And this trust slowly disappears. Gottman's work in relationship hits something similar. When I say Gottman, I mean Dr. John Gottman, a University of Washington researcher who watched couples up close for decades and showed that connection lives or dies in small moments people usually ignore. You see, connection grows in tiny moments where one person reaches, even in a small way, and the other person turns towards them. Not perfectly and not every time, but enough that the relationship stays alive. So trust and connections aren't built in big highlight moments, they're built in the ordinary ones. The moments your partner mentions something that matters and you don't brush it off. The moment your kids wants to show you something and you don't make them compete with your phone. The moment a coworker admits they're overwhelmed and you don't treat it like it's weakness. The moment a friend reaches out and you don't leave it sitting for 3 days. These aren't dramatic, but they matter. Because they teach people what to expect from you. And expectations is where trust lives. Now, let me bring in a story that stays with me. Viktor Frankl wrote about a prisoner in the camps who shared his last piece of bread. Just sit with that for a moment. He was starving, half alive, and still he gave up the only thing he had. That wasn't about calories. That wasn't about strategy. That was trust. That was connection. It was a quiet way of saying, we're still together. You are not alone. And those moments, small, almost invisible, help people go one more day. So trust wasn't broken. It was lived. And connection wasn't just a word. It was survival. Now here's a line from your own life you might recognize. You don't build trust when everything is easy. You build it when things get tense, when you're tired, when the pressure climbs, when the room feels like it could tip over either way. And here's the part that changes how you lead. Storms don't break trust, but inconsistency does. Because most people can handle a hard day, they can handle bad news, they can handle a mistake. And what they can't handle is not knowing who you are, not knowing which version of you is walking in the room, not knowing if your words mean anything this week. And that's when people pull back. They don't always announce it, they just stop sharing. They stop asking. They start doing things without you, and the connection thins out. Also, your body already knows this. When you feel supported, your system settles. And when you feel alone, everything starts tightening up. So, trust and connection aren't abstract ideas, they are part of how you are wired to get through storms. All right, let's pull in our mentors to the round table. Now, here's what the round table comes back to: stop treating trust like it's a feeling, because trust is a pattern people can count on. And storms, well, we know the storms don't break trust. It's the inconsistency that does. Pressure just exposes the gap between what you say and what you do. And that is how it shows up. The follow up that doesn't happen, the apology that never comes, the I'll handle it that doesn't get handled, the version of you that presents one day and gone the next. And connection isn't built by gripping tighter, it's built by staying close when it would be easier to pull away. Because people don't calm down when you explain yourself, they calm down when you're consistent. That's why Frankel's moment hit so hard. The bread wasn't a speech, it was a signal that you're not alone. And when people feel that, the whole system settles. So in leadership, trust isn't built by being impressive, it's built by being reliable, especially when it's tense. So the table's question is this: when pressure hits, do people move closer to you or do they brace? Now, let's bring it back to real life again. Because the hard part isn't understanding this. The hard part is living it when you're stressed. Trust doesn't get tested on your best days. No. It gets tested on the days you're overloaded and short. On the day you get criticized and your ego wants to fight back. On the day you're tired and you'd rather avoid the conversation. And a day where your kids is acting up and you feel yourself tightening up as well. And it's on the day your partner says you're not really here and you want to defend yourself instead of listening. That's where trust gets built or broken. So, what do you do when you feel yourself slipping into inconsistency? First, you stop pretending it's not happening. A lot of people lose trust because they keep trying to keep the image going. They keep acting like they're fine. They keep saying yes while quietly resenting it. They keep overpromising because they don't want to disappear. They keep overpromising because they don't want to disappoint anyone. And then they start failing people. Not because they're bad, because they're stretching thin and still pretending they aren't. That's one of the big traps here. You try to protect the connection by hiding the truth. But hiding the truth is what weakens it. So you get honest. It's not harsh. It's not dramatic. It's just clear. Here's what I can do. Here's what I can't do right now. Here's where I dropped the ball. Here's what I'm changing. That kind of clarity builds trust faster than charisma will ever do. Second, you repair because nobody is consistent 100% of the time. You're going to miss things. You're going to react wrong and you're going to forget. Trust doesn't die because you make a mistake. Trust cracks when you don't repair it. Repair is what tells people you're safe. Repair is what tells your partner you care more about the relationship than your pride. Repair is what you tell your kids you're strong enough to own it. And repair is what tells your team you're steady under pressure. And repair doesn't need a speech, it just needs ownership. I was short. That's on me. I missed that. I'm sorry. I said it. I say I'd do it, and I didn't. I'm handling it now. No excuses, no blaming, no turning it into a debate. Third, you stop carrying everything like it's yours alone. This is where burnout and trust connect here. When you're trying to carry everything, you start disappearing emotionally, even if you're physically there. You get impatient, you get controlling. You start treating people like problems to solve, and the connection thins out. So leadership becomes this. Leadership isn't standing above people. It's walking beside them. It's letting the weight be shared. It's creating a space where people can say the truth without getting punished. Because when people feel safe, they contribute. When they don't, they protect themselves. And if you're thinking, okay, what about parenting? Same rule. Kids don't need a perfect parent. They need a parent they can come to, a parent who repairs, a parent who stays close even when it's hard, a parent who doesn't confuse control with safety. Control might get compliance, connection builds trust. And you're thinking, what about my own life? Same rule again. Self trust grows when you keep your word to yourself. Not huge promises, small ones. The ones you can repeat. The ones that make you feel steady. Because the steadier you feel inside, the less you reach for control outside. And that changes how you show up everywhere. So let me ask you this. Who do you trust when the storm hits? How do you show up for the people who trust you? Are your connections built for chaos or built for calm? Where are your words and your actions drifting apart? And when the pressure hits, do people move closer to you or do they brace? Here's what I've learned. Trust isn't built by being perfect. It's built by being present. Connection doesn't mean you always agree. It means you don't walk away when it gets hard. And leadership? Leadership is standing beside people and not above them. So if you want to build trust, be consistent. And if you want to build connection, stay close. And if you want to lead, show up in the storm because that's where it counts. And now, here's the part where you come in. Think about your own life. Who do you rely when things get heavy? Who relies on you? And where has trust gotten thin? Where would repair change everything? If you want to share, drop in a comment. Send me a message. Tell me what you're carrying. Because when storms get spoken out loud, people stop feeling like they're the only ones carrying them. And maybe some of you will join me at this table one day. Not for performance, just to speak the truth about what you lived and what you're building now. All right. Trust is a pattern people can count on. Write your own story. Choose your consistency. I'm Chris. This is A Total Person. Talk soon.
When the room gets heavy, I don't disappear. I stay close, I stay honest, I make it clear. No big speech, just consistent day by day. I'm